Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today, we are thinking about near-death experiences with Xavier again. I brought him back. We talked about sight last time, and now we are diving deeper into near-death experiences because why not, right? Why not think about this? So, thank you so much, Xavier, for coming back and sharing your time once more. But let's dive right in. When you hear those words, near death experiences, what does that make you think about?
That makes me think about, well, first of all, when you say that, I get a flashback of when I had mine every time, whenever I hear someone say that. And yeah, it just makes me visualize what I had seen at the time. And so it just takes me right back there.
Takes you
Yeah.
right back there. And I love that that's how you see it. You take it you see it as like a flashback. Like it brings you right back into that moment. So it's like, do you think of it as like a PTSD moment or like it's like traumatic or is it
No,
like or is it something where it's a good feeling when you think about it then?
no, yeah, it is a good feeling, but at the same time, it is a I believe it, but like one of those, like, wow, I can't believe it. Like, wow, like one of those types of feelings, like, wow, that was so cool. One of those things. You play it back in your head. You just play it back in your head. Like I did a couple interviews yesterday, and I forgot what she touched on, but it gave me a real playback that I felt like I was there, right there at the moment. Yeah,
Oh yeah, right.
yeah,
Like you if for some reason it's like time never passed, right? And
yeah,
it was
right.
just it's like a very fresh memory that comes to you. So for the people who have not heard our last conversation about sight, what was your near-death experience?
Well, it started off one time. It was during the daytime. I started getting stomach pains. Um, and and I was like, okay, stomach pains. Then they started coming worse, and I was like, wow, hey, this doesn't feel so good. Then it started getting real bad, and then I was like, wow, what is this? Oh my God, like fetal position bad. So at the time, I was married, and I called my wife and says, "Hey, listen, something's going on real bad." And I tried everything. I don't know what it is, but this thing's been going on for like, I don't know, about an hour plus. But this is a real bad. This isn't like a stomach ache thing. This is something else. So, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, oh my God, this is so bad. Like, what could this be? This is like something you see on that I had seen on TV, like because I watch a program the day before, some ER type of program, Life in the ER type of thing. And then I was like, man, I just had a conversation with somebody the other day, and we were saying, hey, if you died, what would you, what would be your last meal? Just joking around. Mine would be at the time. I said, hey, mine would be, I get some pizza, I said, and some wings, but these kinds of wings, not regular chicken wings, but these kinds of wings, and I'll be good. And then I was like, oh my God, I ate pizza and wings for the last 2 days in a row. I said, could this be? And, it was just a hypothetical, just
Yeah.
joking around. But in my mind, I was in so much pain. I'm thinking about this and that, and this, and like, oh my God, could this be? Could this be? No, no, it's not that bad. Maybe I could just go to the hospital and they'll give me something and I'm out. So I remember leaving that day to the hospital, and my wife at the time was like, "Hey, where do you want to go? Do you want to go to this one over here, or this one over here?" One was 10 minutes away, the other one was 15 minutes away. I was like, "Look, we're gonna go to the one downtown, which is about 40 minutes away." I said, "We're gonna do that because I don't think I'm coming back right away." She's like, "What are you talking about? Like, hey man, you're just in real bad pain. That doesn't mean this." I said, "No, I got a feeling." I said, "They offer the best care, I think, if you're staying long term. So we're gonna go there." Like, all right, whatever. I said, "I'll just endure the pain a little bit longer, and then that'll be that." So I went in, and then they did their tests and scans and this and that. Say, "Hey, you got a appendectomy. This
Mm.
that's what's going on. Your appendix is doing this and has done this, and you'll need a surgery. Right away. So you're going to start drinking this and so forth, and you know, we'll get you in. When the time is open, but we'll get you in. So I said, okay, cool, no problem. So I did the surgery, came out of it, and then I stood there a couple of days. Went back home. I was on some type of antibiotics. I took the antibiotics, and I don't know, it might have been it was like 7 days worth or 10 days worth, but I think like by the fifth day, I started getting hot and then getting cold, hot and cold. And I'm like, man, why am I getting hot and cold? I mean, like, I understand why I could be getting cold because it was 100 degrees on that day. I know it was 100 and over on that day. I said, but it's the air conditioners on, it's cool. But then I started getting cold, and I said, how am I getting cold? Like, why am I putting my head under the covers like it's freezing?
Yeah.
And so we made a call to the hospital, like, he's having some kind of um, something from the surgery. And then like, well, what do you think? They're like, could be an infection. We're not sure, but that's how it usually happens. So his body's fighting it. Like, so bring him in right away. I went in, and then I was like thinking to myself, this this is not going to end well. I just knew it. Something just told me this is not going to end well. And so I go into the hospital, and then they started to treat me right away. And then they said, with the results and findings, they're like, hey, you got an infection. Um, this infection, you've been trying to deal with it for this many days. Maybe you should have came in earlier. Um, but it's traveling from your navel area, and it's going up to your heart. Once it gets to your heart, there's nothing we can do. I
Yeah.
was like, what do you mean there's nothing you can do? Like, can't we just
Sepsis.
can't I just get something? So then, it won't, make it. So, and then they're like, well, we're going to put you on this antibiotic through the IV. If it works, I don't think it's going to work. You'll feel it, and things will go away and this and that, but I don't think it's going to happen. But we're going to go to give it a try. But what do you want to do? You need to go ahead and have this procedure done right away. And I was like, well, yeah, let's, I don't know. It doesn't sound like I got a choice. Um, and I was like, it's kind of a do or die thing. So she
Yeah.
laughed. The doctor was laughing and stuff forth. And I was like, well, kind of is, the way you put it. Like, if it gets there, then there's nothing you can do. And that's the end. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Gave me that answer, and I'm thinking like, whoa, man, I just came in here to get something, to relieve me of these feelings and so forth.
Yeah.
Like, wow, you guys are gonna do that? And so went ahead, and I went in there in the operating room. I don't know if you've ever had a surgery where they tell you, hey, 3 seconds, just breathe this in 3 seconds, and you're gonna be out. And
Yeah.
all I remember was like one, and boom, I was trying to make it to two, but I never made it.
Yeah.
But then, um, I don't know what the time gap was in between, but I remember standing there, and I had my arms crossed like this, and I'm watching them perform on my body, the procedure. And um, I watched the beginning to where he had cut me with the scalpel from my belly button down to my navel.
Uh-huh.
And when he cut it, it busted. And then all the pus and blood got all over him and so forth. But he had one of those plastic masks, you ever seen the people
Yeah.
with the COVID,
Yeah.
wear those. But so, it got all over his mask and this and that. And he had swore, and they're like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And then not too much later after that, then the heart rate machine, it went on like, duh, so it flatted. And then they started panicking. It's like, oh crap, they're swearing and this and that. And they started scrambling. And I didn't have no feeling towards it. While I'm looking, standing there, just looking, I didn't have no feeling. I was just observing, pretty much, just
Yeah.
observing. And so I'm looking and watching, like, wow. Oh, that's interesting. You know, but I had no judgment towards whatever was happening. I was just observing. And then boom, I left. And I left from the operating room. And then I remember running through a tunnel, and the
Uh-huh.
tunnel was like of trees, so trees going upwards, and, almost like coming from the bottom and meeting each other. It almost looked like a tunnel.
Yeah.
And then the bottom of the brick was all gold, almost like if you've seen Wizard of Oz,
Yes,
the
yes.
yellow brick road. Okay, so this is gold. So I'm walking through it, and then I'm starting to run, and I felt like really good. And I start jumping and flipping and this and that, this and that. Then I come to the end of it, and then there's a white tunnel, and so real beautiful white light. And so then I'm like, okay. And so I just walked through it, and I've seen people who have passed in the past. There were um, uh, friends of mine, and my grandmother and so forth. And then I walked through it, and then I was on the other side. So I'm having these conversations
Uh-huh.
with people, those
Uh-huh.
people in particular, and I'm just, astounded by how beautiful it looked. Everything looked perfect. Everything was just like, just perfect, period.
Mm-hmm.
And so through that, I remember at the end, I had talked to my grandmother because we just were sitting down talking to really talk. And then I said, well, this place is beautiful. And she's like, yeah, you're home, and you want to stay? Are you gonna stay? And I took a real long time to answer that question. I was like, hmm, okay. And I didn't know what to say. Not because I didn't want to disappoint her and leave her. It's just because that is our individual choice, and that's what I figured out. And so I told her after a while, like, no, I'm gonna go. So I got some things I want to do. Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna go ahead and go. I said, but I'll be back. And she laughed at me. She says, "Oh, you're gonna come back." They did. I was like, "Yeah, I know. When you think about it." She's like, "Oh yeah, we all come back because you're gonna come back." And I said, I'm laughing. I'm like, "Yeah, of course, duh. Everybody dies."
Yeah.
And so then I give her a hug, give her a kiss. I'll be back. She said, "Oh, I'll be watching." And I said, "I know you are," and so forth. And then before that, I said bye to my friend too, real quick. It's an old childhood friend, and boom, I came back. Now, how I came back, I was in the post-operation room. I'm in the post-operation room, and I start opening my eyes. Like from the drugs and stuff. You're like, like one of those things. And so, I'm opening my eyes, and I'm like, and I see the nurse to my right side sitting down. And I started moving my arms real slow, but those drugs are pretty heavy. And so she gets up, comes by me, she's, "Oh, Mr. Roman, how are you feeling?" I'm like, "I don't know." For the drugs, it's like, I'm okay, I guess.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh wow, this and that." She said, "Okay, a couple of things before, and she's like, I'm gonna repeat them again because just so you won't forget because of you know everything wearing off." She's like, "Just don't touch your stomach because your stomach they cut right there and they left it open instead of stitching it, so it's gonna close on its own from the bottom on top." I was like, "What?" Like I'm like, I thought everything they cut open they stitched closed. Like she's like, "No, no, no." She's like, "Yeah, and you'll notice on the side of both sides of your right and left lower side, there's two like little tubes coming out." She's like, "It's just to get rid of the abscess and the infection and stuff like that because they want to make sure it really gets out. So it'll close up by itself from the bottom and then it'll work its way up." I'm like, "You got to be kidding me."
Yeah.
She's like, just don't touch it. She says, "There's bandage on top, just on the top." She says, just don't touch it. And I was like, no. And I said, I don't plan to. She said, if it gets irritated, just let me know. But like, don't. I said, I don't plan to. I says, I said, I don't plan to.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
That
and
is that is crazy.
yeah, no, it was. I'd never heard of it, and just leaving something open at the time. So she's like, hey, this pump right here is morphine. She's like, this is gonna go off and go into your body every this many minutes, but if you need it sooner, then you push it and so forth. It would only go off or go into your body at this time, this so forth, so forth. Those are some of the details.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, okay, cool. And she said, okay. She says, you know what? She says, man, well, it's good to have you back. She's like, man, you know, Doc and them, they almost lost you. She's like, but hey, they brought you back. And the good thing is that you're back here. And she said that, and I said, what? She's like, yeah, they almost lost you and so forth, but they brought you back and so forth. My eyes opened wide, like that wasn't a dream, and then
Yeah.
and she's like, what's wrong? And then the monitor started, the heart rate monitor started going up and stuff, like almost like my body
When it's a
was
shock.
here. Yeah, from hearing that, my body uh, went over all the drugs. I instantly almost became fully alert, almost. Um, and I was just like, she said, you gotta relax. You gotta relax. What's wrong? You gotta relax. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, that really happened. She's like, what? I said, I left and I was on the other side and I seen things and I talked to people and this and that. She's like, oh, really? I said, yeah, yeah. I said, I heard them what they were saying inside the why they were starting. I seen him cut me, and I seen the stuff splatter all over his gown and on his face. Um, he swore, and then he swore because they started going to panic and this and that, and they started bringing out things, and I seen those paddles, the defibrillator stuff. I says, yeah. I said, and then I left, and she's like, oh, wow. She's like, really? And I was like, yeah, really. She said, but you got to calm down. She's like, this your monitor is going, it's going off the tracks. I says, hey, I says, you don't know. I says, you don't know what I just, went through. Like that was real. And she's like, I've been here for a long time. I think it was something like close to 30 years or close to it. And she's like, I've heard other nurses be able to talk about this because, some of them, not a lot, some of them had uh, dealt with this, like how I'm dealing with it, because
Yeah.
the patient did this and that, and saying this and that. She's like, yeah, this is my first time. She's like, wow. She's like, oh my God. She's like, do you mind if I like when you get better, like ask us some more questions? And so she just, she started asking me stuff, and I'm pushing that morphine thing. They kind of calmed me down, but I didn't feel the pain or anything like that. Uh, and she started asking me questions, and I'm like, yeah, this, no, yes, no, no. Well, this is what I see, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then she's like, hey, listen, is it okay for me to come up to your room later and just visit with you and just talk with you? Like, I won't be your nurse. I can't do that. She says, you're going to be somewhere totally different, another floor. But like, can I come up later on? Do I got your permission to come up later on and just talk with you? I was like, yeah, sure. I said, yeah, that's not a big problem. And she said, I got some questions. I'm very religious and so forth. I was like, yeah, no, that's cool. I said, like, I'll be able to answer whatever you have asked me. I says, because I seen a lot. I said, I seen a lot. Yeah, time. I said, I'm gonna say time is different on that side than on this side, and our minutes are way longer, are way shorter than minutes over there. as much as I did. I don't think that surgery was that long. And she came up and she ended up, just asking me questions. What do you think about this? What do you think about this? What do you think about this? And I said, oh, just answering the questions. Nope, yes, no, so forth. And yeah, yeah.
Well, that's an amazing story. I think it holds so much value. And I'm glad that you are able to share it in so much detail because you went in very good detail. Like you were able to describe everything, and I can tell that while you were explaining it, you were back there. You know what I mean? Your mind was there, your memories were there, was everything was so fresh. And that is the beauty of what you went through because it's valid. You know what I mean? What you went through was true. It was real. Like nobody can take away this experience from you, but it just also shows that you have so much great purpose here on this earth. You know what I mean? You have so much more reasoning to be here. And it's funny because there's a conspiracy theory talking about how if you look into the light, then you'll be in rotation for and to be reincarnated. So don't look into the light. You know what I mean? Back away from it if you don't want to get reincarnated. But
Yes.
it's funny, like it's like, no, it's not even like that. So it's I love that your story because it really brings truth versus the lie that people are perceiving because nobody really knows what happens after death. But when you put it in that perspective and people like yourself, they have that personal experience, they actually know, then it really makes it real. Like I even heard a story from somebody was like, I almost I I died, but I went to hell. And when I went to hell, it was hot, it was steamy, it was congested, it was this type of unbearable heat that I didn't even know what to do with. And we were on a train, and when we were on this train, it was so crowded, and all I heard was screams, and there was these screams, and we were going so fast, and like, you know what I mean? So it's just like it's really interesting that you went to heaven. You know what I mean? How people would put it. And then how that person that I listened to before, how he went to hell. So it's just like we really never know where our past may lead, but at least you know that when you died, you lived a good enough life to go to heaven. And you know what I mean? So that should bring some good joy to you. But time is truly catching up to you, to catching up to us. So what can be some lasting words that you can leave us off with to keep on thinking? Even though, let's be honest, that story alone gives us a lot to really think about, but what can be some lasting words?
Well, I one of the things I did learn, there's a part of when I went to the other side, I ended up on this cliff, and while I was on the cliff, um, you're at the edge, and then clouds started forming, and then I started walking up the clouds and so forth, and then as I get up, I just felt this force. Maybe a person, if they had an idea, they could just pretend they're on an airplane and they're looking at clouds, a force of a cloud from all the way they could see to the left, all the way they could see to the right. I mean, that's the enormity. And then I started hearing uh, this voice coming in every language that you could think of, but I understood it all. You know, every language that you could think of, but I understood it all. And one of the messages that I had gotten from that was based on fear and not to fear and uh, how to live and so forth. But the fear part was, one of the big messages that I got, that people hold themselves back from doing things, based out of fear, and showing that if you knew who walked with you, as you go on this journey and so forth, uh, you wouldn't fear nothing if you knew, not if you thought, if you really knew,
Yes.
that you take life a little bit different. So that's
Oh.
that message. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's such a great message to leave us off thinking, to really embody the unknown and really step into the unknown, you know what I mean? And not to allow fear to chokehold you from experiencing life, from doing life, from helping other people, helping yourself, and from just living the way that you were supposed to live life. And I think that's a beautiful way to really remind people like you have this life, don't squander it, you know what I mean? Don't waste it, embody it, and really trust the fact that something else, something greater is going on behind the scenes that we just don't really have the access to, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that truly does hold so much value. And ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, because I hope this leaves you off thinking about your life, about your purpose, about your fears, and what's holding you back, and really stepping into that unknown and stepping into all that you can be, please go check out our last conversation with Xavier, and how we talked about sight. Oh, and how empowering that conversation was, and how he's here to help people heal people from the inside in. Like he's truly living in his purpose of truly helping people. And why not hear him out? Why not check out his website to find all the greatness that he has to offer the world? He has such great content just so that you can continue on thinking. So, with that being said, bye.